to another edition of the StudentFyre podcast, live from the SpeakFyre studio. My name is Bobby Berg. I'm a motivational speaker for schools, and I am here to help you live your best life today. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the StudentFyre podcast, live from the SpeakFyre studio. I'm your host, Bobby Berg, and y'all, thank you again for being here. Really, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank each and every one of you that listens to this podcast the day it goes out, especially those of you that listen to it at 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time when it goes live on whatever podcasting platform you listen to this on. I love you. I love you. Let me say this 1,000 times. I love you. Now, I want everyone to take a second. I'm going to take 5 seconds of mindfulness. I want you to really be in tune with how you're feeling. I don't want this to be something where you just rush through it or you just say, oh, fine, Bobby, I guess we'll do it. This is how we start every episode. I want you to be very intentional with what you're doing. I want you to be aware of how you're feeling. No matter how positive or negative that emotion is, I want you to be honest with yourself with how you're feeling. Because a lot of the time, when people go through this exercise, they just rush through it. And I don't want you to rush through it. I want you to take the time to be one with yourself. And I want you to really be aware of what's happening with you. So, take 5 seconds of silence, and I'll let you go. So 3, 2, 1, hush. See, that wasn't all that bad. That wasn't all that bad. So, this episode is very difficult for me to make. Because I don't really know where to start. I don't really know where to go next, and I feel like my wheels are spinning, and I can't catch the pavement. As a lot of you know, when I started podcasting, my first podcast was StudentFyre, but the one that I really got excited for, that to collaborate with, was with my buddy Jhonny Freebird. Jhonny was one of the most exciting, charismatic, passionate about learning and loving people that I've ever met. This man knew what he wanted out of life, and that was to learn. He wanted to learn everything there was to know about this world. He wanted to know all of what the human consciousness meant, what it meant to really hurt, what it meant to rise from the ashes. He wanted to understand and to show the world that no matter how many times you doubted him, he could overcome anything that came his way. And truthfully, he did. Jhonny and I started a podcast called called Gold Star Podcast. And it was amazing. You know, Jhonny came to me and said, hey man, I want to do this. And we only published, I think, 2 or 3 episodes. Because I had moved, and with the time difference and whatnot, it became too difficult for either of us to record. But in that short span of time that we worked together, it was amazing. Getting to hear him talk about what he loved, getting to hear him talk about what got him up in the morning, and what made him passionate about existing. Just, it blew my mind every single time he opened his mouth. You could ask him a simple question, and no matter how quick the answer was, he had a way of making you understand that we don't know anything. And even if he would give you a quick answer, it was so deep. It was so not a surface level answer that you wanted to hear more about him. You wanted to hear him talk more. You wanted to hear him learn more. And I'll admit, Jhonny and I didn't get along the best when we first met in middle school. We didn't. He was new to the school district. And, you know, I met him in wrestling and we were okay, but he beat me bad one day, and I didn't let him forget that for months. Oh, I hated this kid. I couldn't stand him. He was in my way. He was just, it was such a waste. Until he taught me what he did. I remember one day during practice, he pulls me aside. He's like, hey, or before we start, he's like, hey man, why are you always so mean to me? You always have that scowling look on your face. I was like, dude, because you embarrassed me. I don't like you. And he goes, what are you talking about? I just caught your leg. That's all that happened. And I was like, what do you mean? And before I could even like recognize what happened. He had me on the ground in the exact same move that he beat me with. And he goes, now do you see what I have here? And I'm kind of, on my neck, kind of trying to look around, and I see my leg, and he goes, all you had to do was kick your leg out. That's literally the only thing that you had to do. He goes, you didn't just figure this out. You didn't just lose. You quit because you stopped thinking. And to this day, I owe that man so much credit, because every time I get caught in a situation where I don't quite know how to get out of it, I think back and go, all right, how can I kick my leg out of this situation? How can I really get out of this? How can I think my way out of this? And it was amazing how such a simple act from a stranger, essentially at that point, could change my life. Jhonny really, y'all, I don't care. If I start crying, you're going to deal with it, because I love this man. I really do. So if my voice starts cracking, it's not puberty part 3. It's I'm crying. No, he really changed my life, and he changed my perspective on what it means to push forward. When I told him I wanted to get into speaking professionally, he goes, Bobby, I think that's perfect, and I'm glad that you got here when you did. I said, what do you mean? He goes, Bobby, you might not realize this, but every time you make an Instagram post, people watch. Every time you make a post on Facebook, people look. You have the charisma to bring people in, and they love what you do. And he goes, my favorite time of the year when you were in college was when you had finals. And I said, why is that, man? He goes, because you would always make a 3 to 10 paragraph post motivating everyone else that has finals. You have a stressful event coming up for yourself, and the first thing you did was you thought about everybody else that might be going through something similar. He goes, and I love that you do that, because seeing those posts keeps me going, man. Seeing those things that you do motivates me. And he goes, and I truthfully can't find a better career field for you than professional motivational speaking, because you are a motivator. And from that moment on, Jhonny, he really had my back. Now, granted, he's a little rough around the edges when it came to advice. Everyone has those 4 people that give you advice. You have your people that give you the statistical data as to why what you're saying or what you're presenting or whatever is going on isn't great. You have your people that kind of tell you it needs work, but they don't really tell you it in a mean way. They just kind of passively say, this could work, but it needs a little bit of work, and you could adjust it somehow. You get your people that are super excited about it and give you all these grandiose ideas on how you can fix whatever you're doing. And then you have your people that tell you in 2 sentences why it's bad, what needs to get fixed, and why you should have thought about that first. And that was Jhonny. Jhonny had such a way of tearing my shortcomings down instantly. He didn't have time to baby me. He goes, Bobby, you're playing with the big boys now. Okay? You're in the big leagues. You don't have time to sit there and panic and go, oh, well, man, but I just feel, he goes, I don't care how you feel. I want you to be great. I want, when somebody thinks that they need to be motivated, I want you to be the first name that they think of. So I don't have time to baby you here. You need to get good and you need to get great quickly. And that was our relationship. That was our professional relationship always. Jhonny and I didn't talk all the time, but every time I was home, we would spend a little bit, we'd always get coffee or lunch or something. We would always see each other for at least a minute. And we would always make sure that each person was moving forward. It wasn't a relationship just for him. It wasn't a relationship just for me. He wanted the best out of both of us and demanded nothing less. Anything less was unacceptable, and you had time to work on it if you had time to breathe. He opened my eyes up to what it meant to feel how you're feeling. He opened my eyes up like I've never imagined. Anybody that's seen Doctor Strange, when the Ancient One grabs, what's his name now? When the Ancient One grabs Stephen Strange by the head and goes, I'm going to open your third eye, and pushes him back, and his third eye springs open, and he's all of a sudden sprung back into 19 different realities. Oh, that's what it felt like talking to Jhonny. That's exactly what it felt like. Because no matter how much progress I'd made in life, no matter how open I thought I was, he pushed me a little bit deeper and said, listen, you're just breaking the surface, man. You can do better. You can be more. You can change the world on a grander level, and I know you can. Now, why am I saying this 10-minute monologue of Jhonny Freebird? Well, oh, I don't want to say this. I received word that Jhonny had passed away a few days ago. It was hard to handle. But one of my best friends, Anthony McKay, reached out to me. He goes, hey man, I know you, I don't know, have you heard? And I said, oh no. This is the part about growing up they don't warn you about, is your friend's going to start calling you out of the blue that you haven't heard from in a while. And they're either going to ask you, how are you doing? Are you okay? Or are you sitting down? And that's a trigger for my brain to know exactly where this conversation's going. Well, Anthony had reached out to me and he said, hey man, I know that you and Jhonny were close, and I don't know if you've heard, but I'm just going to give it to you straight because I love you. Johnny's passed away. And I didn't know how to handle that sentence, because I just didn't. What do? You can't change the outcome. You cannot change the result, the fact that you're hearing, but accepting it takes time. It takes a lot of time. So for everyone that's gone through a loss, my heart is with you. Please reach out if you need it. But in memory of Jhonny, I want everyone this week to do some of the most difficult homework I'm ever going to give you. I want you to look at your circle of people that are in your life, no matter how big or small, and I want you to tell each and every one of them that you love them in a unique way that they will understand. For instance, some of my friends that I know love getting letters in the mail. I'm writing them all a letter, telling them how much I love them. So yes, if you get a random text from me saying I need your address, that's why. For my friends that I know do better with audio, I'm making them a personalized audio link. For my friends that I know love video and watching my facial expressions and my body language as I'm telling you what I'm feeling, they're going to get a video. What I'm trying to say is, we don't know how much time we have with the people in our lives. And I don't want you to ever experience the regret of not telling someone how much they mean to you. To all of my friends, I love you to death. To all of my listeners, I love you to death. To everyone that has made a positive or even negative impact on my life, I love you. Because I don't want anyone to ever think that they've gone through a day not being loved. Not that they matter. That they aren't powerful, that they are not important, that they do not change the world on a daily basis, because they do. And you will never change my mind on that. Jhonny, I know you're listening to this. I do. And I know that you're just chuckling to yourself right now going, Bobby, there's about 16 points in here that you haven't edited out, and I really wish you would have, and you shouldn't press publish in this raw form that I know you're going to because it's you. And I'm not sorry, Jhonny. I'm going to publish this in the way that I know would have driven you crazy. Because I don't want this to be a polished, beautiful thing. I want this to be a raw, honest episode. One of my students has recently suffered a very big loss in his life. And he doesn't feel comfortable letting his guard down and just sobbing. So to this student, this is for you. This is me doing that. It's okay to let your guard down. Jhonny, I want you to hear me right here when I tell you this, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you did. Thank you so much for showing me what it meant to really open myself up. Thank you for every single time that you gave me some harsh advice that I didn't like, that I complained about for the next 3 flippin' days because I didn't know how to say anything back to you because I couldn't, because I knew you were right. Thank you for being that counsel that I needed when I was going through a tough time. Thank you for every single time I had a fight with Jenny and I called you and I said, dude, I don't know what to do. And you would talk me through it and say, dude, it's because you're not thinking. You're thinking about yourself and you're not thinking about the team. Thank you so much for impacting my life on such a positive note. I don't know what happened. All I know is that my heart hurts. My heart hurts a lot, and I'm so sorry that this... Whatever happened, I'm sorry, Jhonny. But I love you to death, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the future. Please understand that every single speech that I give, I'm going to think about you. Please think about the fact... Please remember the fact that every single time I record a podcast, you're going to be in my mind, my heart. I love you to death, Jhonny Freebird. I'm so sorry you're gone, but I know that whatever happens after we pass, wherever we go, whatever happens in this next life, I want you to understand that I know you're going to be making a difference. I know you're going to change whatever room you're in with whatever people are there. I know for a fact that your soul is doing the best thing in the world that it possibly can. And I know that you are still learning and you're loving every step of the way. Jhonny, I love you. Rest in peace. And I will catch all of you in the next one. Whew, that was another awesome episode of the StudentFyre podcast. Thank y'all for sticking around for this long, but I got a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? See, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions, like how do I record an episode? How do I get my show to apps? Like, do I have to do it individually, or can I just have one place that does everything for me? And most importantly, how do I make money from my podcast? Is that even an option? Well, honestly, y'all, your answer is Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors that want to advertise on your podcast. Yes, you. That means you can get paid to make the podcast. You can get paid to podcast the right way. In fact, that's exactly what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. If you want to get in on this, if you want to make your podcast a reality and you want your success and your word to be a thing, man, you already know. Hop over to Anchor and give it a start. You won't regret it. Catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.
I got you.
It's coming. Are you ready to ignite the fire?
We are StudentFyre.
Oh, and by the way, that's fire with a Y.
What's going on, everyone?
Internal fire.
StudentFyre.
Young fire. Father's fire. Leadership fire.
Champion fire.
Unlocking the fire within.
Thank you all for tuning in. Let's grow.
Speak fire.
SpeakFyre.com.
StudentFyre with a Y.
We have a new episode that comes out every Monday at 4 a.m. Are you going to be up with us?
Deuces.
I am excited to bring you my new book, Trendsetter, 7 Steps to Radically Stand Out to Be the Best You. This book details my journey of coming to the United States and being excited to embrace the American culture. But unfortunately, my culture was not accepted, and I found myself being bullied as a young girl. And in this process, I decided that I wanted to disconnect from my culture to be more accepted into American culture. And through that process, I got so depressed from trying to fit in that I attempted suicide my freshman year in high school. So this book talks about the journey of what I did to become radically transformed to be the strong woman I am today. This book is something that's really going to enable the reader to understand and embrace who they are, embrace what makes them special, and become radically transformed. Get your copy today at becomingatrendsetter.com. Again, that is becomingatrendsetter.com. Or check it out at my website at aishathomas.org.